Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to continue factoring trinomials, only this time we're going to look at situations where a negative number is involved. You might want to use a pen and paper for this lesson just like last time, so pause the video and go grab that. Now let's get started. This might look very similar to last time, and that's because it totally is. They are looking for a factor. It says use factoring. So we're going to be using that double bubble with x in the front, and they want a 0, which is just another word for the answer or a solution. First thing we want to do is set this equal to 0. Looking at the expression they gave me, there's no equal sign in between my terms, so I am allowed to just bring this down as it is and throw an equal 0 at the end. Now I know I need to use factors, so I can set up my double bubble now. Include x and x, because remember x squared splits up into 2 x's. And now I'm going to do my MA chart, which means I need to use the MAM strategy. I put M, A, M. Do you remember from last time, what does M stand for? M stands for multiplication. And what does A stand for? That's addition. So I want to multiply, add, multiply. As a reminder, there's only a 1 in front of this term, so I actually don't need to pay attention to that first M right there. What number am I trying to multiply to? Negative 18. That negative sign is glued to that 18. That means I'm trying to add to positive 3. This seems kind of scary because a negative 18, how do I multiply to a negative number? Well, we're going to pretend that that negative sign doesn't exist for just a minute. Think of two numbers that multiply to 18. Well, my options are 9 and 2 or 6 and 3. These two will give me the same set of numbers. So we got 6 and 3, 9 and 2, pick a pair. I'm going to start with 6 and 3. Now, 6 and 3 multiply to positive 18, so I just need to make one of them negative because a negative times a negative times a positive will equal a negative. If you don't believe me, check that in your calculator. So here's a tip. If I want to make one of these numbers negative, and I'm trying to add to a positive number, I should make the bigger one positive because I want that sign to kind of take over. So when I add 6 plus negative 3, what do I get? I get positive 3, which is what I wanted. So these are my two numbers I'm going to use. Just to remind you, I need to throw those two numbers into my factors. So positive 6, negative 3. And then I need to actually solve for x. So how I can do that is setting up a t-chart. Now this equals 0 applies to both of my factors. So I get x plus 6 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. I want to get x by itself. It's attached to a plus 6. What's the opposite of plus 6? It's going to be minus 6. I use inverse operations on both sides, cancel out my opposites. What's my final answer? 0 minus 6 is negative 6. Now this totally makes sense because of that whole last rule here. Switch the signs. There was a plus 6 in my factor, so my final answer had a negative 6. What do you think my answer is going to be for this one? You could have done the work if you wanted to, but I know I'm switching the sign. The opposite of negative 3 is going to be positive 3. And that's how you solve these. Let's do another one. I need to first set this equal to 0. I accidentally put two equal signs. Right now, this does not equal 0. What does it equal? Yeah, it equals -3. How do I get rid of a -3? I do the opposite. What's the opposite of -3? +3. So I can just add 3 on both sides. I have to do this because in order to determine the zeros, it has to equal 0. And let me show you how that happens. So I have 3 terms here. 1, 2, 3. None of them are like terms. In order for something to be a like term, has to have the same variable and the same exponent. This has x, but there's no exponent there, and 3 is just a constant. So I am going to bring these down exactly how they look, and my new friend +3 just goes at the end. And I bring down my equal sign. Now I simplify these. What's -3 + 3? That's 0. So when I said set equal to 0, done and done. Now I know I'm going to be using factors, so I can set up my double bubble with my x and x. And now I'm going to do my MA chart, my multiply and add chart. I like to put MA, then make a fancy T chart there. And I'm going to do MAM on top of my trinomial. What number am I trying to multiply to? That is +3. And I'm trying to add to -4. Can you think of 2 numbers that multiply to 3 and add to -4? Well, here's how you could figure this out. 2 numbers that multiply to 3, well, there's only 2 numbers that do that because it's prime, and that's 3 and 1. If I was to add 3 + 1, I would get +4. I want -4. There's another way to multiply to +3, and that's with 2 negative numbers. Negative times negative is a positive. -3 plus -1 equals -4. So I'm going to use -3 and -1. I just throw those right into my factors. Now to get my solutions, I just got to switch the signs. If I want to switch the sign here, what's the opposite of -3? Well, then I'm going to get +3 as my solution. What would my solution be for this factor? +1. That's it. So we did one just like this last time. For this example, they gave you the answers, and they want you to work backwards to figure out the factors. So just to set you up, I have -3, 0, and 4, which is positive. If I want to work backwards here by doing this, switching the signs, what would my factors and answer be? Hopefully you said choice 3, because I am just switching my signs and putting an x in the factor. I know these are in a different order, but that's totally fine. Commutative property. The opposite of -3 is +3. Put the x in front. The opposite of +4 is -4. Put the x in front with the parentheses. And 0 doesn't have a sign, so we can just put x for 0. That's how you do that one. You can switch the order of these so it looks more like this. That's totally fine. All right, let's try one with multiple choice. I'll show you how having multiple choice is really helpful for questions like this. So first thing I want to do is make sure it's equal to 0. Fun fact, if it equals f of x or y, that's pretty much a 0. We just don't want to have an equal sign in between any of our terms. So that step is already done. I know I'm going to be using factors, so I can set those up. And now I want to use my MA chart. M. What number am I trying to multiply to? Well, that's going to be -30, because this negative sign is glued to that 30. And I'm trying to add to -13. It's really scary trying to think of numbers that multiply to negative numbers, but let's pretend this 30 is positive. Looking for 2 numbers that multiply to 30. Well, I have a lot of options here. I'm going to use the multiple choice. So I have 10 and 3 and negative 15, or 15 and 2 as my options. Now, if I was to go use that multiplication chart, I would have 6 and 5 as an option as well. But that's not included in my choices. There's no 6, there's no 5, so that's not going to happen. So let me start with 10 and 3, see where that gets me. Now 10 times 3 is positive 30. I want to multiply to negative 30. What should I do to my terms, like the signs? What should the signs be to multiply to a negative number? The signs of these have to be different. So I want to pick one, make it negative. I know I want to add to a negative number, so the bigger one should be negative. What is negative 10 plus 3? That's going to be negative 7. That does not work. And here's a tip for you. Let's say I blame the fact that I made the 10 negative. If I was to make the 10 positive and the 3 negative, 10 plus negative 3 would be positive 7. So 10 and 3 is going to get you some version of 7 every time. And I do not want that. So it has to be one of these, 15 and 2. So 15 and 2. Which one should I make negative? I want to make that 15 negative because negative 15 plus 2 equals negative 13, which is what I want. So I take these and I put them in my factors, negative 15 and positive 2. Now read the question carefully. They ask you to find the zeros. Which one of these choices should I choose? So right now, I just have the factors. I need to switch signs for my zeros. Opposite of negative 15, positive 15. And opposite of positive 2, negative 2. Answer would be choice 4. If you pick choice 3, that's because you went with the signs and the factors, but they wanted the zeros. Okay, so I am going to solve this equation for you, and you're going to tell me where my mistake is. So look carefully. Oh, we're assuming P and X are the exact same thing, just different letter. So I made a mistake. See if you can finish this sentence. Rachel solved this equation incorrectly because, and let's see if you can finish this sentence. Rachel solved this equation incorrectly, but, so here's how I might finish those. I solved this incorrectly because 5 and 2 do not add to 11. They add to 7, and I need them to add to 11. So I should have picked 10 and 1 because that adds to 11. So then this would have been 10, this would have been 1, and then my actual answers would have been negative 10 and negative 1. So I solved this question incorrectly, but I did actually use the inverse operation correctly, and I knew which numbers I was multiplying and added to. So I had some maybe partial credit going on there. Okay, what do you notice about this question? So I'm going to start solving this, and then I'm going to ask you to make a statement or ask a question about what's going on here. ask a question or make a statement about what just happened. So what I did was I noticed that there is a greatest common factor. All of these can be divided by 2, so I just went ahead and did that. And now when I'm solving it, I have a 1 in front, and now I can proceed normally. So I'm going to do M, A, M. I can make my MA chart. Okay. Trying to multiply to -2 and add to 1. Can you think of 2 numbers that multiply? Oh, I totally put these in the wrong spot. Make my MA chart again. Sorry about that. Right, can you think of 2 numbers that multiply to -2 and add to 1? There's only 2 numbers that multiply to 2, and that's 1 and 2. And if I want to add to a positive one, I should keep the bigger one positive. So make that 1 negative. And then in my factors, I have x minus 1, x plus 2. What would my actual solutions be if I'm switching the signs? It's going to be +1 and -2. Okay, let's do another multiple choice one. I'm going to skip that last one. So find the zeros of this function. I'll get you started. We put M, A, M. We know we're going to be using factors. And the MA chart. Boop, boop, boop. What number am I trying to multiply to? It's -24. I'm trying to add to -2. Now, super tricky, but please use the numbers that they gave you in the choices. 8 and 3, 4 and 6. So can you think of 2 numbers that multiply to -24 and add to -2? So here's how you could do this. Just pick 2 numbers, try them out. 6 and 4 are going to work because if I make the 6 negative, -6 plus 4 is -2. So I do -6, +4, and what are my actual solutions going to be? +6, -4. So my answer is choice 3. Choice 2 looks very similar, but 2 is only the signs of the factors, not the zeros. All right, last one. You can do this. So Keith determines the zeros to be -6 and 5. What could be Keith's function? So you're going to want to work backwards here, or you could work forwards from every choice. Working backwards might be a little bit easier. Opposite of -6 is +6. Put an x in front. Opposite of +5 is -5. Put an x in front. So I want +6 and -5. Choice 3. All right, awesome job. We have finished factoring trinomials when the first term has a 1 in front. Let me know what you thought of this lesson, and I'll see you next time.